Welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this video. Time to dive into the book.
Hello, this is Jessica with onastackofbooks, and today's video is my weekly wrap-up. I finished actually 3 books, so that's very good. I will start with The Museum of Extraordinary Things. I have a in-person book club tonight, so I had to finish this one. I pushed through. This was a 2.5 stars for me. This was just, there was too much dragging. The 2 main characters did not really interact until towards the end, and that just really frustrated me. I wanted them to have dialogue and you know, interact. And then when they did interact, it just felt like there was a lot missing. I felt like the premise of this was very cool with this Coney Island freak show. The daughter is a part of it. There's this other guy that becomes sort of like her love interest, but he's, also has his own side story, and they were interesting, but it just was way too much detail, way too much. So, and I thought this was my first Alice Hoffman book, but it's not. I read another one of hers, and I want to say In This Life or Second Time Around or so. I'll put it up. I'll find it. I also did not like it. And I can't remember the title, but I do remember that it was a story about an abusive relationship. And I just, after reading it, was like, I really could have done without that floating around in my head. So I probably will stay away from in the future. I don't think I will pick up something if it's of hers, because so far these 2 I don't like. And then Truman Capote, In Cold Blood. I was listening to this as an audiobook, and then after my 14-day period was up, I still had a chunk or so. And so I finished it, and it's a true crime. You know, it's the real investigation of the murder of the Clutter family. And it's just heartbreaking because, you know, it was really, they're always senseless. It's always motivated by money or something of that matter that, you know, just isn't worth it in the end. But this was really not worth it in the end. I was surprised that we got so much of the killers. And then, there was other murderers or, criminals that we also got some of their story. And so I think, it's just not what I expected. I think I have watched true crime shows, and you get sort of, you know, where they grew up and their whole background and everything that happened. And I was expecting it to be along those lines. And I think anytime you have an expectation, if it doesn't meet it, then you're either disappointed or, you know, and so I wasn't disappointed. It's just not what I expected. So I am glad that I read it. It was interesting. Again, it just wasn't what I expected. So, and this was one of 12 that I set for myself for the year. So that satisfies that. And it's one of my 50 before 50. So yes. And then the third one that I finished was Ride the Spiral by Ben Young, and that was on my Kindle. And I really blew through that. I did have to pause and make sure that I finished my book club book, but I really was excited, and I really enjoyed. This was a cosmic horror, which I can honestly say I don't think I've ever read that genre specifically, and I have read very few horror. But I do remember Ben making a comment about how anything can be scary. And I think that is a very interesting and important point with horror or any kind of spooky, scary book. I think we always think of murder as horror, murder as scary, or, you know, very, very horrible things. But there's a lot of things that can be very scary. And when you have children, just to protect them, you know, you develop so many fears you didn't even know you had until you have kids. And so this book it was really well done, but it had this scary horror element of, them protecting their child. There was a mother and a father, and they're protecting their child at all costs. And, it was one of these, it was the type of book where I finished it and I was like, oh, that's not how I expected it to finish. And then I needed like a day or two to sort of process and really feel how I felt about it. And once I had time to really think about it and think about the ending and everything, I was like, of course. So I'm very specifically, not saying anything. I don't want to give any spoilers. It was a fantastic read. And I think like I said, once I really thought about it and processed it and took my time to figure out, really what I felt about it, it got better with time. So, yes. So, very good. I highly recommend. It was a pretty quick read. On the Kindle, I have a terrible concept of how long a book is when I'm reading an audiobook, a Kindle, you know, anything that's not a physical book. It felt like it went really quickly. So I don't know how many pages it is, but very good read. So I finished 3 books, and I feel really successful finishing 3 books this week, even though all of them I had started. It was a really good reading month. I got 3 books done. I do know moving forward for next month, in-person book club, because I chose it because I really want to read it and I was excited. I got Heartwood, and I saw this, on Lauren and Ben's channel, The Youngs and the Restless. And she read it and she said a girl gets lost hiking in the woods on the Appalachian Trail. And I was like, that's all I need to know. I want to read it. So I'm really excited to get started on this one. This will be in July. And then we have not picked our Audio Miles book yet, but we are going to put up 4 books to choose from. They're going to be thrillers, so that will be in July. And then I have all of my 50 before 50. I don't think there's any other reading events that I'm doing for July other than Audio Miles, my book club, and then reading from the 50 before 50. So, but I'm really excited for this one. So yes. So thank you for watching. And until next time, I'll be reading.